Hello everyone, today I'm going to be talking about the organisation and the company colours and a little bit about the flags of Napoleonic infantry. This is something I found a little bit confusing when I got started, and I just wanted to put together a sort of quick reference video for people who were maybe in a similar position to help give you some idea of how to get started. I want to give a shout out to the website Napoleon, His Army and Enemies, which is really a huge treasure trove of information. I spent a lot of time trawling through that, and nearly all of the information I'm going to share here is basically from that website. So I'll give a link in the description below, and go and check that out for some further reading. It is really useful stuff. The way this works is 4 stands like this, which is a unit in the game of Black Powder, represents what was called a battalion in Napoleon's army. So a battalion would be made up of multiple companies, okay, within the battalion, but then multiple battalions might make up a regiment. So this stand, or these 4 stands, sorry, represent 1 battalion. Within the battalion, you have 2 what are called flank companies on either side, here and here. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 center companies. The way we tell the different companies apart is by looking at the different coloured pom-poms on their shakos. So as we go up the line here, you can see we've got lots of different colours. We've got 1 flank company on the end here with green and yellow. Then we've got purple. We've got command in white. Then we've got orange, blue, dark green, and then finally red on the other flank company. We'll start on the right hand flank then, so our left. So here we've got soldiers in the 1st company in the battalion, which were known as Grenadiers. Okay, so one of the flank companies, because they're on the flank. The difference with these ones is that they have kind of plumes in their hats, or their shakos I should say, or some of them do, and they're painted red, and as well as the red collars and the red cuffs like all the soldiers have, they also have red shoulder pads as well. Okay, the Grenadiers were sort of, I suppose you would say, veteran troops. They were often chosen for their size, so the taller soldiers tended to be Grenadiers. I believe there was a kind of minimum height requirement that was a little bit higher, or taller I should say, than just the standard companies. I'm not sure what that was though, but these are soldiers who were kind of tough, battle-hardened veterans, and this was considered a kind of a position of honour to stand at the flank in the line. We'll look at the other flank next. So on the left-hand flank, we have these guys. So similar to the Grenadiers, they have the shoulder pads as well as the plumes in their hats, although these would have been green or sometimes yellow and green. And these were the Voltigeurs. So the Voltigeurs, these are essentially sort of the kind of light skirmishing kind of troops. All right, so you can see here in these stands, these are Voltigeurs of a light company, arranged in kind of skirmish order. So this is often what they would be doing. They might not be in the line that much like they're represented here, but they might be skirmishing out in front of the line, and they would be sent on all sorts of exciting kind of missions, right? You can read about this lots online, but they did things like skirmish ahead and set up positions to kind of harass enemy artillery. They also did exciting things like raiding baggage trains. In one incident I read about, they scaled the walls of a fort and then opened the doors from inside to let the rest of the companies in, the rest of the battalion in, which is all very sort of dashing hero, sort of sharps rifles type stuff. These men, similar to the Grenadiers, were veterans. I believe you had to serve for 2 years as a standard company rifleman before, or soldier, I should say, not rifleman, before you were eligible to be in the Voltigeurs. And these men were a lot shorter than the other men. I believe that you could not be taller than 4'11" to be a standard Voltigeur, and as an officer, they wanted them to be around 5 foot. So very small guys, really, by today's standards. Yeah, that sort of suited their role, really. Skirmishing, smaller targets, a lot more acrobatic. I looked into it, and Voltigeur is also the French word for acrobat, apparently. And I read somewhere that Napoleon wanted these troops to do things like jump onto the backs of enemy cavalry as part of their kind of engagement strategies, which sounds a bit mad, really, but apparently it did happen occasionally, although it wasn't a kind of mass tactic. So that's the two flank companies. So you would paint the Grenadiers on the right-hand side, on the right flank, our left-hand side, red, and the Voltigeurs on the right-hand side, or the left flank, green, or green and yellow. And then the rest of the soldiers are just the different companies that go in order, right? So they were known as Fusiliers, right? The standard soldiers. So you've got Grenadier company here, and then you've got your first Fusilier company, your second Fusilier company, your third Fusilier company, your fourth Fusilier company, and then your Voltigeurs, okay? And they were color-coded. So they are, those have got great coats on, so they're not very good to look at if you look at these ones. So they're just standard uniforms. They've got the blue jackets, the white fronts, the red collars and cuffs, the white trousers in theory, although some of them would have had grey or brown kind of scavenged trousers on campaign, and then the pom-poms on the shakos, what determined which company they're. So you can see here, hopefully, first Fusilier company is green pom-poms on the shakos. There should maybe be a darker green than that to distinguish them from the Voltigeurs, but green, dark-ish green. And then we have blue for the second, orange for the third, and then purple or violet for the fourth. Within this, we also have the officers. So you'd have an officer, a drummer, an ensign carrying a flag, and I believe they just had white pom-poms. I know the officers would have. I'm not 100% on the drummer and the ensign. Maybe if you know for sure, you could let me know in the comments. Thinking about flags now, because that's also something that I found a bit confusing when I first started. So this is the sheet of French flags that comes with this this box from Warlord. You can see I've used the first line infantry flag here, which is this one. And I've also used the 2nd Battalion Fanion, which is what I've got here. So the French system, once you understand it a little bit, seems to be actually quite simple, really, because it's all very organised and kind of standardised, which, as I understand, is sort of Napoleon's whole thing, really. So I've chosen, rather than to represent different infantry regiments with every stand, I've decided to make the battalions that make up one regiment. So the regiment would only have one proper standard and one eagle, right, which is what this guy's got. And then all the other battalions in that regiment would have the fanions. So these are smaller flags. You can see if the 2nd Battalion, for any regiment this would be, so all the different regiment flags here, which are basically the same but with different inscriptions, I think. All the 2nd Battalions would have white, all the 3rd Battalions would have red, 4th would be blue, 5th green, and so on. What I've represented here is all members of the 1st Line Infantry Regiment, but we've got the 1st Battalion here with the regiment standard and the eagle, and then we've got the 2nd Battalion here with their 2nd Battalion fanion, which would have been standard to all the regiments. I hope you found that informative and useful. As I said, this is something that I found a little bit confusing and overwhelming when I started, because I didn't care overly about historical accuracy, but I didn't want to just paint things completely wrong. So I really wanted to have a bit of an idea, and that's what I've aimed to do here, really. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea, some place to start. If I've got anything wrong, please let me know. Once again, a huge shout out to that website, Napoleon, his armies and enemies, which I'll link in the description below, because it's a real treasure trove of information on this stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that, and happy wargaming, happy painting. Let me know how you're getting on.